There are places on this earth that do not welcome us. Places where the land itself seems to conspire against human presence. Where the air is so heavy with heat that it warps the horizon into a shimmering mirage, and where a single wrong turn can transform vacations. Death Valley is such a place. It holds the record for the highest air temperature ever recorded, 134 degrees Fahrenheit. In the summer of 1996, 4 German tourists drove into this furnace in a green Plymouth Voyager minivan, and they never came out. Their disappearance spawned one of the most baffling and heartbreaking mysteries in the history of the American National Park System. The answer, when it finally arrived 13 years later, was more tragic and more terrifying than anyone had imagined. Our story begins not in the blistering heat of Death Valley, but in the leafy, historic city of Dresden, Germany. Egbert Rimkus was a 34-year-old architect who loved the outdoors, a father who wanted to show his 10-year-old son Georg the American West. By his side was his girlfriend, Cornelia Meyer, a 27-year-old woman with a warm smile and a deep devotion to her 4-year-old son, little Max. Connie's parents in Dresden had reservations. They worried about the distance and the scale of the United States, but Egbert and Connie dismissed them. On July 8, 1996, the family touched down at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, then caught a connecting flight to Los Angeles. They picked up a rental vehicle, a 1996 dark green Plymouth Voyager minivan, practical for a family, but entirely unsuited for rugged backcountry roads. The family spent their first days exploring San Clemente, soaking in Pacific breezes. A credit card receipt shows they were living their dream. They pushed on eastward, drawn by the neon glow of the Las Vegas Strip, checking into the pirate-themed Treasure Island Hotel. On July 22nd, they checked out, and the Voyager's wheels turned toward one of the most inhospitable environments on Earth. At Furnace Creek, the digital thermometer would have been past 110. Imagine the blast of dry, searing air that hit them. They bought a German-language guidebook called the Death Valley National Monument Museum text. Connie meticulously logged their presence. The guidebook showed a tantalizing shortcut, a road through Butte Valley, over Mangle Pass, and northward toward the majesty of Yosemite. The morning of July 23rd, the Voyager turned onto a route that quickly deteriorated into a washboard of loose rock and sand. At an abandoned mining camp called Warm Spring, Connie wrote a message in a logbook. "We are going over the pass." They reached the geologist's cabin and took a small American flag left for visitors. That flag would later be found inside their abandoned van. Then came Mangle Pass. What sprawled before them was a nightmare of boulders and deep potholes, a road for specialized vehicles only. The pass was impassable. They made a desperate calculation and turned southward down Anvil Canyon. It was the last mistake they would ever make. Anvil Canyon was a dry wash. The tires began to shred. They drove 4 miles on rubberless rims, grinding against the stone. Finally, the minivan sank its axles into the soft sand and stopped for the last time. The family was stranded miles from help. They locked the van and set off on foot. Along the way, someone placed a bottle of beer under a bush, seeking a scrap of shade. October 1996. A park ranger in a helicopter spotted the vehicle. A standard passenger minivan, buried in sand where no vehicle belonged. Inside, they found the American flag, unopened bottles of beer, a camera, and identification cards. But the family was gone. A massive search involving 250 people began. They scoured ridges and washes for days, but the desert gave up nothing. The mystery hardened into legend. Theories bloomed. Had they staged their disappearance? Or had they stumbled upon something they weren't supposed to see? Tom Mahood, a search and rescue volunteer, became obsessed. He theorized the family walked south toward the China Lake military base, seeking safety. In 2009, 13 years later, Mahood spotted something in Goler Wash, remnants of a human tragedy frozen in time. They found Cornelia's passport and her daily planner. Nearby, the remains of Egbert Rimkus were discovered. They had almost made it to the boundary. But what of the children? Georg and Max were never officially found. Only the soul of a small shoe remains as a haunting trace. The desert is actively hostile, a place where the margin between adventure and tragedy is thinner than a razor's edge. Those final answers remain out there, somewhere in the silence of Goler Wash, under the indifferent stars and the shifting sands.